Friends, I just want to say a quick thank you for all the support we've had over the last 24 hours since I dropped that video. We're all good. Just to put your mind at rest, we're all good. It is when a bomb gets dropped into your pond, then it causes a ripple that takes a little time to reconcile. This really, I'll keep the story short because a week ago, maybe a few more days than that ago, Alexander had 2 instances in the space of about 36 hours of briefly being like choking on his own phlegm, where he's like struggling to swallow and struggle to breathe, and then within a few seconds it would distress him, but within a few seconds it passed, and it happened twice. And we were concerned about that, and we noticed then he was seeming to be having some allergic reaction. So we, immediately changed his food. He's a little bit blotchy on cheek. Maybe his lip got a little bit swollen. So we were like, okay, maybe this is associated to that, and or mold, because the place we're staying at the moment we think has a mold problem underneath the floor, and the wind howls in the floorboards at night. So one time he'd woken up in the night sort of choking, like that was one of the occasions. And the other one was after having had some tomato and some like a pesto sauce. We thought maybe had kicked it off. Anyway, that kind of following that, Alexander has like a next day after that, he is unwell. He's like physically unwell, doesn't want to do anything in the morning, and it's really not like him, and we're not used to him being unwell. So we monitored him. That morning he threw up, mostly just phlegm, and then the last little bit was just a bit of green bile we thought was possibly something that had been annoying his system. He, after throwing up, this was probably 10 or 11 in the morning, he went to sleep, woke up 2 hours later, and was pretty much back to mostly healthy, But the next day I noticed that his urine, because he's been peeing outside on a slab, his urine was drying with a white powderiness to it. So we became a little bit concerned. I was like, okay, well, maybe we should be, giving it a day or two. He's possibly just cleaning out after the system. And normally, you don't see your child's pee, it goes down the toilet. Not having had a home for so long, he hasn't really gotten that part of the training down yet. Anyway, but Andrea had been concerned, and of course we were still sort of spinning a little bit from the possible allergic thing, and we were looking to get some, we want to get some kind of allergy test done. But the consequence of her having conversations with her mother and her sister, and me, I suppose, and the internet, she was like, why don't we just call the doctor, private doctor? And so we tried that, a pediatrician, just to get some advice, and they didn't want to talk to us. We did find one who would do an online consultation for 250 quid, but not that day. So we called. This one said just call 111, which is the national kind of second, before 999, or the Americans use 911 or whatever. But call 111, and that's their, they will help you out. You can see what they suggest. So we do that. And you have to wait about 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, to get through all the questions about, are you calling about COVID? And then funnily enough, they say, well, for most people, what you need to do is if you've got symptoms, is just treat yourself like you got a cold or flu. Most people, I won't say anything more about that. You know what that is all about. So we run through a series with a nurse or a practitioner, some person at the end of the phone line, and they can't find a single thing to set off any alarm bells, actually, because any temperature or listlessness or any of those things were already 36 hours behind us. And it was only at the end of the call that we said, look, there's this, the one thing that hasn't really come up in any of the questions is why would he still be getting, why would we be finding this? And Andrea was thinking it was white blood cells, and a whole raft of other horror stories were playing into our reality. Anyway, I'd started the phone call with the NHS. It had ended up being like probably a half-hour call in total, because it had gone down to the eventually to a nurse who had said, now talking to Andrea, not me, had said, it's 7 o'clock now. Why don't you bring Alexander down to the hospital? It's freezing, by the way. I mean, this is 3 days ago, whatever, and it was the coldest night in 25 years or something. So it was really, really cold, and so I come in the room and hear this sort of end of this conversation and go, okay, well, what is the connection? What are they connecting to what he had before to what's going on now? Or is this just something separate? Because to me, it was like a body had gone through a process, and maybe this was just a cleaning out. And like I said, most parents never get to see their child's wee goes in the toilet and flushed away. You don't get to leave it to dry on a slab and watch it in this way. So the nurse said to Andrea, I don't know, I can't remember if she actually said this to him, but whether we can't find a record of him on our system, and of course we have never used the system before, or registered his birth, as you know. So I think what happened was alarm bells were ringing anyway. So in her mind, it was necessary to bring Alexander in at this point at 7 o'clock at night. Andrea hung up the call, and I almost immediately said, look, if there's no, if he's not running in temperature, he's complaining of absolutely no pain, if we need to do a urine sample for him, let's grab one sometime. You can't force him to have a wee on demand. Let's grab one, and we can take it in if, we maybe leave it till the morning, or at least another 24 hours. And because unless he's complaining about something, this may be just a natural process that we otherwise would never have seen if he was using a toilet. Because on all accounts, he seems absolutely normal unless he's a little pale. That's about it. He's eating well, drinking well. Anyway, so I phone the hospital up and say to a lady there, look, we've got it. She's, oh yeah, we're expecting you, Alexander, to come in. So I said, well, look, we've decided we're going to hold off. It's kind of late and very cold, and he's not going to want to go out, and I don't see the good value in disturbing him at this point in time. His health is not immediately in any danger, as we saw. He didn't even go amber on any of the questions. So if all it is a blood test, I'm holding off on that for another 12 hours, maybe 24 hours. Okay, she says to me, you sound like, I'm talking about stools, I'm talking about all the things, we've looked at all this, we changed the food, Okay, you sound like a sensible father, you got it all together. All right, good luck, we'll maybe speak to you again. And that was that. About half an hour later, the knock at the door, and 8 o'clock, and this dude in like full regalia, like he just stepped out of the ER, plastic body suit, ting, pong, he's got a speaker up here, he's got a laptop in his hand, and a dude standing behind him. And my first thought was that this is some kind of COVID, like we're going around and asking people if they'd like to get stabbed kind of thing. That's what, or tested or something. That's what I thought it was. That was my first thought. And he's like, oh, I'm here to see Alexander. What? I've cancelled the appointment. Well, we were concerned because he tried to make out like it was his urine, but I said to him, well, you can't, he's fine. He's on his way to bed. He seems fine at the moment. So, and this guy, like I said, he's all like this. I'm not letting you in as my sleeping son to go and, start prodding and poking him, because I've poked his belly, and I've checked his eyes, and, what else can the doctor do when visibly they can only maybe take a blood test if something was serious. But at this point, it would only be a urine sample, something that I had no problem with offering, although at that point in time even though I had a sample of his urine. I wasn't wanting to give it to the guy because it was like, how dare you just turn up on my door uninvited and insist that you have to see my child. Start asking me questions about, is this my permanent residence? Do I have any other children living here? And I wanted to remember there was one final question that he asked me, and I'm like, I already told you, stop asking me personal questions about my stuff, The only thing of interest here is my child, and I'm telling you that he's well, or certainly well enough, for me not to kind of drag him out of bed and into the cold. So I sent him away. Really, I sent him away, and I wasn't, I was relatively polite. I mean, given that someone turns up at your door, some stranger turns up at your door, looked like a freak show from a mass ball, Halloween thing, and then insists that he's going to go and see your 3-year-old child. Fuck that. I know that there's 100 people out there who say, wow, we've seen you with your child, and people I've spent time with over this last year since I've been without a home, they know that Alexander is my primary concern, and I put an inordinate amount of energy and effort into his well-being. So, I'm not, for me, it's like I said to the guy, you come here, I'm raising this child 3.5 years. Now all of a sudden you think you have a better, you're going to start making judgment calls that I can't make. We've already explained, and he passed all of the tests. So the verbal tests. And by the way, the 250-pound doctor was going to charge 250 pounds to do an online Zoom call. How's a doctor meant to feel temperatures and look in the eyes and blood, all of these things that you're going to do it on a Zoom call and still charge 250 pounds? Fucking criminals. And by the way, this doctor will spend the other half of his day working for the government in the NHS and earning maybe less money, there's no doubt about that, per hour. However, this kind of creature is why the NHS is in a lot of the pickle it's in, is because they've allowed a lot of the practitioners to spend half their time, 60% of their time, generating vast amounts of income in the private sphere, and thereby robbing the NHS of critical, staff at times when they need them. So, one of the big tricks they've pulled over the last 10, 15 years is to actually rob the NHS of its full capacity. And of course, you haven't seen any of those big private hospitals that have been allowed to establish. You haven't seen any of them stepping into the breach during this thing that's going on, which, may still materialize into something real. It's always bear that in mind, when calling it out as a freak show. This freak show is going to make people unwell. So anyway, I didn't show the doctor much respect for coming to my door and having no respect for it's not my house, but this is my home, where I answer the door right now as my home, and he's asking me questions about, or personal questions, and not accepting my word that things are fine. See, they got it wrong, because the last person at the hospital answered that was dealing with Andrea. She, in her infinite wisdom, was making this assumption that, which again is a bullshit assumption, but simply that mother calls in, says there's something wrong, and then father calls in and says he doesn't want to bring the child in for this appointment to have his, to come and have his blood, his urine tested. And so in their minds they're able to take that means I am coercing her to, and causing, this is why. And of course that I wasn't on the day. Alexander is not on their system. Isn't that incredible? We've cost the state absolutely nothing when it comes to Alexander. No benefits received. No birth certificate means no benefit. And we've cost them nothing, and in 3.5 years not used the services that are on offer at all. And then you call them up for some advice, and say, you know what, I'm happy with the advice. I haven't seen a reason to use you yet. They go, oh no, well that's a cause for concern. So at 1 in the morning, later that night, bang 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 on the door. 3 more masked ball participants were standing at the door. So the first question is, David Mantle, you David Mantle? And I was pissed off actually because it's 1 in the morning, and I got 3 strangers pounding on my door. One of them standing well within their social distancing bullshit. I mean, they like to get near the door just in case you want to close it on them. They don't mind coming in with the hammers later on, but it's a little embarrassing for the copper who's nearest the door not to get his foot in the way to prevent you from closing your door on these would-be muggers. So I say, who? He asked me my name. I say, who are you? Who are you? Oh, I'm the local police constabulary. So he didn't give me his name or number, which of course these are things that I only afterwards I'm like, why didn't I hold that? Like I was a little thrown at 1 in the morning. I wasn't expecting that. But no name, no number, no sorry sir for waking you up in your sleep, We've had a complaint and we're concerned that you cancelled an appointment for your son at the hospital. I'm like, that's it? My friends, that's it. I can't, and because I was aggressive according to them, I was aggressive to the stranger that turned up in a freak suit at my front door, demanding to see my child at 8 o'clock at night while he'd already gone to bed. Well, he was uninvited, and I got a little bit testy with the guy, a little bit firm, a little bit pointed. The nice doctor's not used to having people not give a shit about his indoctrination. As with the other 3 in their clown suits, it's the same thing. I'm meant to be cowed by their authority that they carry. You want to talk about where God is placed in our life and where the authority really should lie, with me and God. That's where it should really lie. But you say stuff to these godless people, then they start to think you're a complete nut. Because, oh wow, anyone who wants to be that close to God and say, wow, my life is, I seek to operate my life and to treat people in that with those sort of overriding principles and guiding essence, And this is something that's completely foreign to people for whom the law, and of course the law got in the way with the conversation, because then the social distance invader, he goes, and your child wasn't on the spine, the spine being the national database, and I'm like, yeah, well, because we've never used the service, and I don't know whether I offered this first or whether it was already something that they knew, that we have no trace of him or no record or whatever, and we're concerned. I said, because he doesn't have a birth certificate. And so then this guy nearest me, he's like, no. Oh, he's trying to at 1 o'clock in the morning. Now I'm standing on the coldest night in the country in 25 years, and I'm standing there in my, a pair of track pants and a t-shirt and something, another layer on top of that, and I'm freezing now. I'm just shivering there like this at my front door, going, having this debate with this dude that, it's like, listen, it's beyond you. I didn't say this to him, but it's above his pay grade. This stuff about having a birth certificate. The plods down at the ground level, they don't know this stuff. For them, the law is a blunt instrument that must be obeyed at every turn. So I was talking to him about consent, and I do not consent, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just making a video, and all this sort of stuff. And they were, of course not, giving me any credence. It was like, no, I said, my son's asleep, and there is no no report. You've had no report of me harming him or him coming to any harm or screams or anything like that. This is just an admin issue. And they were like, so I was, initially I was like, no, you're not coming in. And then, the guy said, well, we will. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but, oh, we're coming in. And of course, even if it was just, 3 of them at the point, if I'd kind of got intransigent, there would have been 33 more very soon. You know how they come. Someone stubs a toe and there's 5 of them. Anyway, that, thankfully, Andrea was listening in from upstairs, and she brought Alexander downstairs. Oh, because I said to him, what is it you want to see? What exactly will satisfy you, Because I'm the father here, and I'm telling you that he's okay, and I've made a decision that if his urine is still showing up a little bit cloudy tomorrow, then definitely we'll go and have that test done, I don't need to take ZZ, I just need to take a sample down, and you can tell me what's... So that anyway, so Andrew did bring him down, and he said to me, I want to see that he's got 4 limbs. I want to see 4 limbs, that kind of thing. Anyway, Andrea brings him down, and he's obviously mostly asleep, and she shows him to these clowns, and then the woman says to Andrea, oh, can I speak to you separately? See, because they're always worried that I'm somehow holding a needle to her arm, and coercing her to do things, etc., etc. That was what happened with the birth certificate call. When I called in and said we're not going for birth certificate, they called her up and said we need to talk to you separately because we need to know you're not being forced into this. Hey? So the divine masculine warrior, all of that doesn't have a place in this world. You need to be cuckolded. You need to be as huge as you might be, as muscular and as powerful as you might be. You need to be cuckolded by this system, and if you're to fit in, and that's going to be obviously where the system and I continue to butt heads. So they went away obviously, and they asked me on the way out, like, oh, because it's like, who lives here with you? They're asking me questions. Of course, I don't even want to get into that because it's all very, you know what I mean. I'm not doing anything dodgy. Where I'm staying is not. I'm not doing anything illegal or anything like that. But it's it is messy, and you say, oh, you're homeless and you've got a 3-year-old child and so on and so forth, and again they feel like they somehow have some ownership. They don't have my ship, and they certainly don't have Alexander's birthing of the ship certificate. And Andrea and I now impelled to pull out the paperwork that we got from the government and run through it all for you guys who are interested in freeing any future children from this system of whatever. So that's that, and yeah, they went away, and of course my night was pretty effed up. By 3 in the morning I was still like, awake and stewing. It really is quite a, it's quite a disempowering thing to have bullies come to your door and say, we're going to beat our way in through you, and probably if you don't let us in, we'll also fabricate strawman charges for you having done the right thing to protect your family. Because this is how it all turns, isn't it? Is that, and I had so much experience. This is how I lost my job in government. Someone makes a claim against you, and they love, especially those that are. Oh, I'm not going there. They love to They take, oh, well, this person said this, and for that reason, you are now presumed to be all of those things, despite having worked for us for 7 years or 10 years, or depending on, so, this is how it was with this thing, was that, we're going to make certain assumptions. Worst case scenario, the guy said to me, the social distance invader said to me, oh, we don't know that you don't have 10 children here and living in some kind of squalor situation. To his credit, he said, oh, but we can see your it looks nice enough here, but well, I mean, that should be the assumption of me. If I turned up in the door with my baby held by the hair and I'm beating on it and stuff like that, I go, okay, you guys have got a license to involve yourself in that, But when a man comes and looks you in the eyes and said, hey, listen, I'm the one who cares most about this child. Trust me, 3.5 years, you weren't there. I was every day, but maybe 2 of them, and those 2 were on the first Flat Earth conference. So, and maybe a couple on the first Globe Live tour. Not the last one, the first, the 2018 one. I think it was 2 nights, 1 night or 2 nights. That's all. The rest of the time, I've been made myself completely available. He sleeps in the same bed with me, and he is, as you know, my precious thing. And now these guys turn up and start questioning that with nothing to go on other than I was, firm. Although they heard the word aggressive, exactly what they meant. Did I push him? Did I get in his social distance? No. Once again, he was in mine. He came to the door and didn't step back from the door, and I didn't invite him to that door. And I'm meant to just go, oh, pleasantly, yes, come on in, strange man. Go and frighten the hell out of my child with your freak show outfit. I really didn't want to take Alexander to hospital partly because of, all the strangeness that's involved in all of that now, all the weirdness. And, of course, it's all white light and very probing and so on. I think hospitals are designed to be what they are. Sometimes a hospital is the right place, and we would have gone had that been, had Alexander been in pain and discomfort and so I'd have felt like, wow, we try to call in some naturopaths and stuff like that. It's very difficult to get a hold of that, by the way, unless you already know someone. They all want you to go to a GP first. Exoneration, or the system has created that hurdle in order to ensure that the drug lords get their first bite of the cherry. Alexander is really well. Today is Sunday, and I think it was a new moon when all of this happened. We had a massive conjunction of 4 or 5 of the major luminaries. And wow, guys, when I do this presentation that I'm working on about the electromagnetic universe, I am having to go into some study that's kind of mind-bending. The quantum into quantum fields and string theories and all these sorts of things, but in them I am finding the truth of our universe, even though the intelligent dudes who put it all together are obviously doing it on a Newtonian ball bollocks. So, and of course, as I said in my comment on the other video, it's funny because I started work on this back in 2018. I was really inspired by electromagnetic universe theories, and I started working on my own thinkings on it. And then, life got really interrupted with everything. A police raid in 2018, and a second attempt by them in the same year, I think, a few months after, and then that psychic attack or whatever you want to call it, that happened at the in Speaker's Corner. That was a rough old year, so you got to know that 2019, the Globe Light Tour year, was a way, well, not a year I was able to put myself to that kind of stuff. And then obviously being on the road all this time, This is the first time I've felt like I have the whatever the space is in your head to work on those things that we probably all have the ability to kind of work on if we aren't distracted by all the bullshit. And I'm hoping, really hoping that this inspires other people to look further into this as a way of seeing our cosmology, understanding cosmology, and primarily maybe coming to a closer understanding of God and our intimate relationship with God. And I have to say, I'm, me being a bit of a skeptic, I am just sometimes going, wow, is this how it is? This makes you, when you understand this way of seeing the universe, you are left with an inescapable conclusion that whatever you want to call God, it is right here. It is right with you. Yes, there seems to be a hierarchy system emerging from research, but that hierarchy goes up and down, by the way, I think. So, but it's fascinating. You'll be mind blown by some of the ideas and what it potentially means. So I'll leave this there. Thank you all very much for the support. Hope to see you very soon.